I'm Liz Corbett, the Party Hostess Diva. You can find my information at www.partyhostessdiva.com. I am going to show you how to make a single layer chocolate cake from scratch, and you are going to love it. These are the ingredients we're going to use. 1 2/3 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 1/2 cups of sugar, 2/3 cup of baking cocoa, 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 1/2 cups of buttermilk, 1/2 cup of vegetable shortening, 2 eggs, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. It's very important to prep your baking pan for your cake. You want to make sure when you put all that work into this awesome homemade recipe that it's going to release from the baking pan and not crumble out. I'm prepping this with a pastry brush, liberally with vegetable shortening, all around the bottom, the corners, you want to get it really well, and the edges right up to the side. This is part 1 of how we prep the baking pan. Next, we're going to sprinkle some all-purpose flour into the baking pan. Just a nice light little layer on the bottom and around the edges. This is going to stick to the shortening and make a nice finish that your batter will adhere to. I'm gently tapping the edge to move the flour around. And your goal is to not have any shiny parts left on the pan. It means that you've gotten your flour distributed well. And as you see, we have a little bit of excess left here in the corner. You want to make sure that you tap that out of the pan before putting in your batter. I'm just going to be adding the ingredients. And I will tell you that it's very important to crack your eggs ahead of time, let them come to room temperature, and just mix them slightly before you add them to the batter. Next, we'll be adding our sugar and the rest of our dry ingredients. We have our all-purpose flour, our baking cocoa. This gives it that nice rich chocolatey flavor. And I've just added our salt and baking powder. Now here's a trick for using buttermilk if you don't have any on hand. This particular recipe calls for buttermilk, 1 1/2 cups. And I love this idea. You are going to simply add about a teaspoon or more of apple cider vinegar to your milk. And what this does is it curdles it slightly and ends up being exactly like buttermilk. All right, so we are adding our buttermilk that we've made, and last but not least, some vanilla extract. All right, and all of these ingredients are in for our nice cocoa cake, and you want to start it on low to incorporate the ingredients in. And I will tell you that it's very, very important to stop often and use your spatula and mix the ingredients from the side of the bowl to make sure that there are no lumps and all of the dry gets mixed in with the wet ingredients. Starting out slow on the mixer, and I do prefer the whisk attachment for this. So we're going to go on low. And you see how it's catching those dry ingredients and mixing them in well. You can move the speed up a little. You want to stay on medium speed for maybe 1 or 2 minutes. Never overbeat your cake mix batter because it will overwork the chemical reaction that's going on with your baking powder, and you may end up with a flat cake. And now we'll just turn it up slightly, and you want to go maybe a minute at a higher speed. This particular recipe, the batter is fairly runny, so don't be concerned that it looks like it's runny. It's still absolutely fine, and it's going to come out very moist. And that looks about right. All right, we have all of our ingredients mixed in really well. And again, remember, this is a very thin batter. Don't be concerned because it will bake up beautifully, like a very fluffy brownie. Now I've got this in a 9-inch square pan because I want it to be a little bit higher and a little bit thicker. You can also do this in a 9x13 as well for a slightly shorter cake. All right, we have made our single layer chocolate cake. Look how beautifully this rises up. And so again, that thin batter doesn't matter. Look how rich this is. It's gorgeous. I'm going to show you how prepping the pan is so important. It's going to help you to turn this out. You notice it's already pulling away from the edge because we did prep it well. Just going to give a little help here, and you'll see how it's already starting to lift very easily. Nothing is sadder than a cake crumbling to pieces when you've put all that love and ingredients into it. And watch this. Ta-da! I do like to level my cakes though. It gives a little bit more of a professional appearance. So you're going to want to use a bread knife, which is serrated on the bottom, as you can see. And this is for breads and cakes. And I'm just scoring this down to about where the edge of the pan was. And we're going to lift the rounded parts off because it will mound up slightly at one side usually. We're going to lift those off very carefully and make a more uniform width cake. And just kind of eyeballing it best you can. And these scraps, by the way, make a great treat. Put a little icing in between, you've got yourself a cake sandwich. And you just want to go in sections so it comes off neatly. So now what I do is, once you've got your cake all leveled off, you want to turn it the other way onto your platter that you're going to ice it on. Look at that. All the same width, nice and even all the way around, and all ready to put on your buttercream or your favorite topping. And that is how we make a single layer chocolate cake from scratch. You will be so glad you did. I'm Liz Corbett, the Party Hostess Diva, www.partyhostessdiva.com, and I will make your life a little sweeter.